Today on CityCast Nashville, we're excited to welcome back Nashville Scene food and travel correspondent Margaret Littman, here to help you plan your fall trip to the mountains of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. While this episode originally aired last month, hosted by Grace Fuse, the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene has left many local businesses in East Tennessee needing our support. And what better way to help than by booking a fall getaway? The leaves are changing, fall festivals are in full swing, and Gatlinburg is open and ready for visitors. CityCast Nashville is presented by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Monday, October 21st. I'm Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville is talking about.
Hey, Margaret, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be back. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you again. So today we're going to talk a little bit about a little day trip, road trip that you could take from Nashville for people who want a little escape. We're going to talk about Gatlinburg and why Gatlinburg is more than what you think it is.
I think Gatlinburg is underrated or misunderstood a lot. And when you all asked me to think about some road trips for foodies, I thought this was such a good thing to talk about because Gatlinburg has this reputation as being only pancakes and fudge and fried food, all things that are good. But I think that the food scene is really a lot more nuanced and there's a bunch of new restaurants and it's the heart of the Smoky Mountains. So it's a great place to go.
Okay, wait, but where are the best places to get pancakes?
So there are a number of places to get pancakes. And I guess we should back up for a minute and talk about how Gatlinburg is in Sevier County, and that Sevier County also includes Sevierville and Pigeon Forge. They're sort of tri-cities in the same area, and sometimes they get a little bit conflated. But so I'm mostly talking about Gatlinburg unless I indicate otherwise, I guess. So there are a couple of pancake places specifically in Gatlinburg. There's Pancake Pantry, which we have here in Nashville. It has long lines in Gatlinburg, just like Nashville. The one in Gatlinburg, though, opened in the 60s. And apparently that was the first pancake-specific restaurant in the whole state of Tennessee.
Wait, really? So that was before the Pancake Pantry here in Nashville and what I would call the pancake obsession?
Yeah, the whole obsession. And Pancake Pantry is right on the Parkway in the heart of downtown Gatlinburg. There's a place that's a couple blocks away from downtown called Little House of Pancakes, and it has more of a sort of diner feel. And that's definitely where locals, or people I know who live in Gatlinburg, that's where they tell me that they go. And it definitely is a different vibe. Mm-hmm. Again, it's almost like a Waffle House dinery vibe with lots of pancakes and full menu.
Love it. Have you checked out moonshine options in Gatlinburg?
So there are a number of moonshine places and wineries in Gatlinburg. So Sevierville has some kind of wonky liquor laws. Technically, Sevier County is a dry county. But there's something called a city option. So the individual cities in Sevier County, including Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, and Sevierville, can choose to allow the sale of alcohol. So before that, restaurants couldn't sell it. But now in Gatlinburg, there are package stores where you can buy wine and take it to your cabin and, sip it while you're in your hot tub looking at the mountains, or you can go to these different wineries and moonshine distilleries and do sampling and buy stuff to go.
So talking about our cabin, what are some of the things that we can do in Gatlinburg other than sit in a hot tub in a cabin in the Smokies?
Well, part of what I think is so fun about Gatlinburg is it's really infinite. There's so many things packed in this little area that you can go multiple times and not do it all and not see it all. Mm-hmm. I like to go because of its proximity to the Smoky Mountains. It's the only place in the state of Tennessee where there's a ski hill. It's called Ober Mountain. They have chairlifts and they have snowmaking machines. So in the winter, you can go skiing, and they have a skating rink in the winter also. There are really countless cool interactive attractions like roller coasters and a replica of the Space Needle and these cool bridges where you can get all kinds of great views.
And the Jurassic Jungle boat ride, which is what I remember from my trip.
So I have not been there, but now that you mention it, I'm definitely going to have to put it at the top of my list because who doesn't want to see dinosaurs?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Do you have any recommendations for hikes in the Smokies?
So I love the Smokies. I spend as much time there as I can because there's so many great hikes for whatever your kind of activity level is. Laurel Falls is a very popular, relatively easy hike or moderate hike, I guess, to a waterfall. It's very popular, so it can get crowded, but it's really easy access. There's parking at the base. Part of it is sort of, if not paved, it once was paved. So the terrain is relatively easy. And then you get this sort of waterfall payoff. There's another hike to Grotto Falls, which is on something called the Roaring Fork Motor Trail, which is a driving loop you can take from Gatlinburg through this part of the park. And then you can pull over and go see different sites. And there's an old mill at one of them. And then this hike to Grotto Falls. And it's a waterfall where you can kind of walk behind the fall.
Can we do guided tours anywhere?
Yes, there are a number of guided tours. There's a company aptly named Smoky Mountain Guides, which is a pretty good, clear name. They operate something called the Guide Room, which is an actual room in the Embassy Suites Hotel where you can go in and they have this giant map of the park, or you can book things online or by phone, and they'll help you come up with the right thing for you to do in the park depending on your interests and your ability levels. So if you don't want to hike or you can't hike, they'll take you in a shuttle and go to some of the highest points that a car can go in the mountains. It's all local guides, so they kind of know the shortcuts and they know how to avoid traffic and the crowds. They'll do fly fishing guides. They'll do firefly tours in the early summer. They'll bring all the gear that you need. They'll set up s'mores for you. So you could just sit in the mountains and eat s'mores and not hike. Or if you want to go on a guided hike, they'll talk about what you want to see, what you haven't seen before, and pick a hike that's right for you.
Yeah, sitting outside, having somebody set up my s'mores for me and not hiking does sound like my kind of Smoky Mountain experience, if I'm being totally honest. And that sounds absolutely lovely.
I mean, it's the best, right? Because you get the whole s'more, but you don't have to do any of the cleanup. You don't have to do any shopping. You don't have to pack anything out. Somebody else is doing it for you.
I hope they bring wet wipes for my sticky fingers.
Of course. It's leave no trace. So of course they will.
So true. Yeah, leave no trace of marshmallow on my fingers.
Exactly.
All right, admit it. It's time to replace your not-so-trusty old boots. You know the best place to shop for quality, handcrafted men's and women's boots is at your local Tacova store, at the Mall at Green Hills, or on Broadway by the Ryman. That's right, you now have 2 locations to choose from, so stop by and grab a cold one as you peruse. Tacova's Nashville is at your service. It's always a challenge to find boots that fit well and can survive a night walking around town, but you can find your perfectly fitted dream boots with the help of Tacova's expert staff. Your new Western boots can elevate a casual look or add a refined flair to any outfit. Everyone will be asking where you got your sick boots, but I won't be asking because I know they must be Tacovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Outside of the outdoorsy things, we alluded to some good dining options outside of pancakes. Where can we go for some high-end, really good dining in Gatlinburg?
So there are a couple of places that I really love and a couple new places. People keep laughing at me when I tell them this, but there's a new luxury hotel in Gatlinburg. It's called Rocky Waters. It is a historic building. It used to be a motor inn, and it's recently opened as a luxury hotel. And they opened a restaurant in there called the Heirloom Room. And it's just this beautiful, high ceiling, lots of windows looking out at the river dining room. And then it's a really fine dining experience with lots of Appalachian ingredients and a really extensive bourbon selection and an extensive cocktail collection, a nice wine list. And again, that's all pretty unusual for Gatlinburg. Because of the liquor laws. The first time I went to Gatlinburg with a friend, we stayed at what was then the new hotel at Dollywood. My friend wanted to order a glass of Pinot, and our waitress just didn't know what that meant. She knew red or white because she had lived in this place where there wasn't liquor by the glass. And it was so kind of sweet, I thought, how this was something new to Gatlinburg or to the Sevier County. And now if you walk in the heirloom room, I mean, you could be anywhere with this sort of sophisticated wine list and cocktail list. One of the things that we didn't talk about in the beginning of sort of my intro to Gatlinburg is the other thing that Gatlinburg is really known for is arts and crafts. There's this history of art being made in the mountains there. There's a world-class art school called Aeromont. And then there's also this driving loop called the Great Smoky Mountains Art and Crafts Loop. It's 8 miles, and you can drive it or take the free trolley and go to all these different art galleries and art studios and see art being made and take classes. And then along there are a number of restaurants. And so one of them, called Red Oak Bistro, is another one of my favorite sort of fine dining experiences in Gatlinburg. They have beautiful Mediterranean food. Again, a really nice, unusual wine list. And it's in this little spot in the mountains on this kind of quaint art loop that just feels like you're in the middle of nowhere, but you're kind of just minutes from all the Gatlinburg activity.
Have you ever taken any of those arts and crafts classes, or do you know of any that you should recommend?
I have taken a few. So along that arts and crafts loop and just across the street from Red Oak is a place called Cliff Dwellers, which is sort of a co-op of different artists. And on the first floor is a gallery where they sell work. And then upstairs, they teach classes. And so they'll have 1 day or half day classes in weaving. I took an echo printing class where we went and collected plants and then sort of put those on paper and put the whole thing in dye. And then the natural tannins of the plants come out. And that was cool. I've taken a watercolor class. And then at Aeromont, the school where you kind of stay for multiple nights, I once built a canoe, a wood canoe.
What? Do you get to keep it? You have a canoe now?
Yes, it's in my basement. Yes, it was the best. That was a longer class. That was almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, I bet.
But honestly, that was it was one of the best experiences of my life. But it was also one of the times that I really got to know Gatlinburg.
I mean, first off, I'm glad that it was a longer class because I would not trust a canoe that at least I had built in any less than 2 weeks, probably any less than a couple of months for my own personal craftsmanship. All right, Margaret, you mentioned Dollywood. We have to talk about Dollywood because I have not been, but I aspire to go. Do you have any hot tips for how to get the most out of your Dollywood experience on the food side, but also the activity side, how I can enjoy that the best?
Plan at least 1 day, if not 2. It's an amusement park with a ton of stuff in it. And even though it feels like it's kind of geographically small, you could spend a lot of time there. Part of the reason that Dolly Parton wanted to open Dollywood is to preserve some of the history and the crafts of this place that she grew up. So there are lots of craftsmen doing kind of the stuff we were just talking about, weaving and blacksmithing and that sort of thing. And so you want time to go see that. There's tons of live music, so you want time to listen to that and then go on rides and eat a lot of different food. In the Dollywood Park itself, it's famous for this cinnamon bread, which is sort of it's a cinnamon roll almost in kind of a loaf form. So maybe, 6 inches by 3 inches. And then you get different butters or icings to drizzle on it or dip on it.
Love it.
People eat it like out of this loaf pan, hot. And there's a line and it's delicious.
Love it. Which hotel would you recommend we stay at if we go to Dollywood?
So I would probably stay at Heart Song, which is one of the hotels that's connected to the Dollywood property. Thematically, all Dolly. It's all butterflies. That's her sort of signature. So there are butterflies everywhere. There's both an indoor pool and an outdoor pool. It's positioned so you really get to see the mountains. And then they have a shuttle that goes over to the park and back. So you don't have to think at all. You just get to have fun at Dollywood.
Awesome. One last thing before I plan my Dollywood vacation. When would you recommend that we go?
So I think fall, we're coming up on it, is awesome. One of the reasons that everyone goes to the Smokies is it's so spectacular when the leaves start to change. And so to be on a roller coaster and then also get to look out on these mountains and see these leaves start to change is something that, you don't get to do at Disneyland.
If people have one takeaway from this podcast about what Gatlinburg is really like, what would you want them to take away?
Couple of my favorites that I haven't gotten to mention for foodies. One is a place called Whole Earth Grocery. It's a natural food store and deli, and you can eat there or you can do takeout. And I am obsessed with a chicken salad from Whole Earth Grocery. I just think they make really beautiful, healthy food, and it's just a great contrast to some of, the delicious other stuff you might eat in Gatlinburg, like Dolly's cinnamon loaf. So I love that. And then right across the street from Whole Earth is the Salt and Pepper Shaker Museum, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a museum collection of more salt and pepper shakers than you've ever thought could exist. And so it's super fun for people who are into food or just into kind of crazy collections to go see it, but it's still a little more chill than some of the other things that Gatlinburg is super famous for. I think the takeaway is that there are a ton of things in Gatlinburg that people don't think about. There's some beautiful steakhouses, one called Greenbrier Restaurant, which just feels like you're sitting in a treehouse while you're eating your steak. And I feel like people think that so much of Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and Sevierville are neon and this sort of super fast pace. But the whole thing about Gatlinburg being this gateway to the Smokies is you get to have this more leisurely experience if you allow yourself to do so.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Margaret. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hope to see you in Dollywood eating some cinnamon toast.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!